Greetings and welcome from Tbilisi, Georgia, to whomever is listening out there. I used to talk on radio, so you never knew who was listening. You couldn't see anyone. You can see me, and that's different than radio. Although I can't see you, and maybe I will see some of you a little later in the show because given this is a StreamYard jam, I might have you have one or two of you come on board and talk to me. So we will see what's going on. Yeah, well, I might as well start off with a bit of music here. Got good news to report. And if you haven't been paying attention or didn't watch the last one of these things, well, I'm going to give you some very good stuff. But let's start off with a bit of music from Lebanon. Hayam Yunus, a young woman in the 1970s singing from Lebanon. We'll be back in just 3 minutes.
على الغدير تعلقت عيني بعينك والفؤاد طواك وتساءلت عيناك بعد تغيب أنسيت عهدي أيها المتباكي لا هو الذي فطر القلوب على الهوى ما نسيت ولا سلوت هواك لكن قلبي والفؤاد ومهجتي أسرى لديك فأكرمي أسراك سمراء رفقي للعلي الباكي وترفقي بفتى مناه رضاك سمراء رفقي للعلي الباكي وترفقي بفتى مناه رضاك ما نام وجدا تجسرت عيناه بين المروج تغازلت عيناك الله وجد دائم وصبابة وتسهد وتوسب لخطاك أتخادعيه وتخلفي ميعاده وتعذبين مدللا بهواك وهو الذي بات الليالي باكيا يرعى النجوم لعله يلقاك وهو الذي بات الليالي باكيا يرعى النجوم لعله يلقاك يرعى النجوم لعله يلقاك يرعى النجوم لعله يلقاك
I'm Eunice from Lebanon back in the 1970s. It's kind of interesting for me to watch. Right now, it says there are three people watching. And then I saw a fourth come on, and then a fourth disappears. And I'm sure someone comes on and they look and go like, okay, what is this stuff now? I've always liked the concept of alien television, not truly alien from outer space, but of just tuning into some weird channel. You could do this with channels on television in a way you can't do it on the internet. But whereas you'd be trying to get something to come in, and then you'd get static, and then you would start to see some picture. And to me, the images like that are exactly that kind of thing. Okay, so what are we up to? What are we doing? Well, for those of you not in the know, we have actually hit the $12,000 mark. And I'm going to explain a little bit of that in just a moment. We are over $12,000. I'll give you a little recap from 2 days ago. And I am happy. I am feeling good because we've got it. So, why am I here still? Well, for a couple of reasons. One, even though I got the $12,000, I don't actually get the $12,000, and the $12,000 is my budget, and that is to say that they take out more than 3% out of each of the systems takes out roughly the same, and so we've got to get figuring out more things being subtracted by PayPal and GoFundMe. Links below. I've got to try to get a bit more. So that's what we're doing. We've got the official amount, but siphoned off of that was about $300-400. So we're going to try to get that money today. And let me give you a little recap a couple of days ago. So we were at about, I needed $865, and Joshua Alford gave $30 to make it that amount. And then Roderick, I like saying Roderick. He says it's too long. Only his mother calls him that. But what a great name, Roderick. Anyway, he gave me. He suddenly plunked down 1,000 and pushed the whole thing over, and I was just like, wow. And we had a really great conversation. Him, Miriam, and Joseph, and myself the other day. I'd go back and watch it. It was quite enjoyable. And I've been doing some other interviews with people that will be coming up both on this channel and the Anadrome, which is going to be more of my music and arts channel. And I talked with yesterday I talked with Justin Wells, and we had a very interesting discussion about movies and such, including a bit of an Academy Awards discussion. And I also talked to James Wallace about, we got to talking about the end of a certain era, and that era being the alternative rock world, but basically the whole rock story itself. And so that was quite good. And he passed me a video of a guy, Andy Edwards, musician from England, talking about the end. He's been talking about the end of the rock era too. I think it's very clear now that the rock paradigm is done. Likewise, the music as an agent for genuine change is over. I mean, the music we see now isn't about change, it's about conformity. Even someone like Taylor Swift, it's more about becoming a Swiftie than it is about something in the world changing through music. Although I always felt that dream was way too large, which is one of the reasons it fell. So, but we did get another $19 came in from Niels Galen. And let me actually switch over here. And that brings us to, this is the other thing. So that brings us to $12,154. I'm no longer counting to what we need, only what we get. But here's the good news. Just got another one. Andrei from Albania just threw in, I think, certainly second, maybe third $100. And that ought to make you think, if you haven't given anything yet, he lives in Albania. They don't have a lot of money there, but he thinks what I'm doing here is worth something. And that's what Rod said too. So that brings us to $12,254. And that is very good. So we are making up the money taken away from us by the systems we use to collect the money. And one thing I also want to say is, besides collecting that amount of money, the other thing I'm doing, this will be the last official one of these. I'm going to just take some time off from doing this, get my head clear. I am leaving on March 6th, and I'm doing a couple of things, and I'll repeat this a bit later, but I am doing a couple of things with regards to the channel and what I'm doing. I will be coming on my StreamYard account, which is going to die for my free service after this particular 2-hour block, will renew on the 24th. And sometime after that, I'm going to come back on and do one more session with everyone, thanking everyone. But also, you know, I realized when I was figuring all of the expenses here, there was one slight major one that I didn't take into account, and that was eating along the way. So that's the other thing I'm doing, is I'm collecting for that. Incidental expenses, like I can foresee, it looks like I'm going to have to spend 3 evenings in London on the way back, and that's going to cost me a couple $100. I can foresee other expenses. There's going to be a bus I'm taking in France. I'm not even taking the train. I'm trying to keep my expenses down. And I'm not looking at this trip to Alaska as a holiday. I'm not going there to go, you know, renew my acquaintance with the eagles and the bears. For one thing, the eagles are mostly gone or up in trees, and I'm not going to see them. There's going to be a lot of snow still on the ground because I'm going in March. I'll arrive on March 9th. And the bears are still asleep. And in fact, we'll talk a little bit later about what I'm going to do when I arrive. But one of the things I am going to do is start a series following me on this, and I'm calling it Cargo Diaries. So if you see the word Cargo Diaries on the anadromous, that will be me basically giving you an idea. I will be showing you what I'm doing as far as packing the container. When I first open King Tut's tomb, otherwise known as my storage unit in Alaska, we will be there for the unveiling. And I will be smelling it to see if there's any kind of rot. I put a bunch of rat poison under the pallets just to make sure that the worst thing, well, the two worst things I could expect is, one is if there was a leak in the building, and there was a huge flood at the end of 2020, a flood, a rainfall so heavy it knocked the side of a mountain down, and 2 people died in Haines. And so that was, you know, and I got in touch and I said, you know, how is my storage unit? Is it, you know, getting wet in there? And the answer was no, it's very dry. The other thing I worry about is the rodents getting in there. Now, fortunately, we don't have any big rats. There aren't any real mice either, but they're these little voles. And the thing about rodents is they like to burrow inside of nice little, you know, cardboard things and get in there. So I unfortunately had to put down rat poison or mouse poison just to make sure if anyone did crawl in there, they go, that smells good, and then die. So we now have $12,254, but like I said, I'm trying to make up at least $400 from the money that was taken away by the GoFundMe and PayPal, and I'm also trying to make a bit of money so that I can have some sort of food while I'm traveling, and maybe pay for, you know, the incidental expenses I'm not thinking about. So, like I said, the $12,000 is going purely, trust me, everything will disappear. I'm not going to sit around here and going like, yeah, I'm going to Paris for a couple of weeks with my $12,000. No, I am going to Paris. I'll stay at friend's house. I'll sleep on the floor if I have to. I'm trying to spend as little money as possible. I'm not as we say, the rich American. Who's there? Naira. Glad to meet you. Nice to see you out there. And anyone else who wants to say hello, say hello. This is going to be the last official marathon begging session, begathon. This is going to be the last time because we did get the 12,000. I'm pretty sure we're going to get the 12,400, which will cover the PayPal expenses. And I'm sure you folks have been generous. I'm sure you will keep going and feed me on the way. In fact, I was just thinking of the last one when I come back after the 24th, when the StreamYard stuff is available again. Just call it Feed Me or something, because that is, it's just like an oversight on this whole thing. But everything costs money. And so such is life, and inflation is up there. Don't know how long it'll take me to get my stuff back here once I get there. Oh, let's see. I see a little red dot. What's that little red dot mean? It means Michael Stasevich is rocking the house with $4 American. He does this all the time. And he does that to prime the pump. Thank you, Michael. 6 would have been more poetic because then we would have an even number. But hey, we need the odd numbers to encourage the people who like to get rid of even numbers to come aboard. So we now have, let me switch gears here, do this again, then we'll play a song, and we'll be back after that. But let's do this first of all. One more time, go up to the board. We now have $12,258, which is wonderful. And I am deeply grateful. Greetings, Michael. If you feel like coming on, let me know, and we'll work it out. You know the email address, so you can just write me there. If anyone else feels like coming on, let me know, and we can do that. So that is that. I'm going to play a piece of music right now, and if you want to come on, let me know. I'll give you the email address. Then you can send me a note, and then I will send you the invitation in return, and then you'll come on. So let's hear a little Georgian music. Just a reminder, and by the way, folks, if I'm a little behind on getting the Georgian music out to you, I went to bed at 2:30 2 nights ago after this thing because I was just like, And there's someone else's live stream I wanted to get on at 1 o'clock tonight after this, and I didn't. I got up around 5:30 this morning, so it'll be a long day. But anyway, I need to get that stuff out to you. If you give $50 or more, you get 50 files of rare Georgian music like this one by Leila Nakauri. Let's watch this, and then we'll be back in how many minutes? 4 minutes. And if you want to come on, and let me know if you want to come on. I'll send you the email address.
Gadai
great little, very subtle song by Leila Nakori. I've been meaning to get in touch with her. I'm a Facebook friend, but I'm if she speaks English, it would be great to interview her for my Gravity from Above channel. It's a little too Georgian specific. And also on Gravity from Above, if you've never been over to that channel, that's where I have the documents from both my Georgian life and my travels running around Europe looking for puppets and thinking about the future of art. Whereas Georgian Crossroads is more for other things related to Georgia. So practical things, but also if you were to visit strange things you might see here or interesting things. Okay, so what am I going to do when I arrive in Alaska? I'm going to go my storage unit is in a huge Quonset hut, which is one of these kind of rounded buildings like they used to build for the United States military in World War II, and they still have them. But it's not quite a Quonset hut. It's a little different, but nevertheless, my stuff is in there. It is behind the post office on a dirt road. A dirt road, I am sure, is going to be really muddy. So one of the things I'm wondering when I get there is how muddy will it be? And one of the things I was thinking is, oh, do I have to take my big shoes? And then I realized, oh, no. And then suddenly it occurred to me, oh, there's a lot of stuff that I have there. So I don't need to take certain things. I have extra clothes there. Most importantly, I have my Alaskan extra tough boots there. And yeah. So, okay, Michael, evidently you didn't get the message I just sent you. I will do this instead. I was saying use the email. You should have that, but then again, you're probably, who knows? I don't know what people are doing these days. So use this address, write to me here, and I will bring you on. So anyway, so the road is probably going to be, it's not a long road. It's just, I mean, literally, 100-yard, 100-meter walk off the main road. But it is going to be pretty muddy and probably with snow on the ground. And I was thinking, okay, so what am I going to do here? I'm going to go in there and separate things out because I'm also going to have a yard sale of the stuff that I don't want to keep. And the stuff that would just be, I have a television here. Much as it would be nice to have another screen here, there is the question of the electrical currents, and rather than risk it, or someone just told me they had a printer that they had brought here and it blew up because of I think they had thought it was more friendly to the current here than it was. They didn't have the actual transformer. They just have the plugs. But so what I'm going to do is when the actual container comes, what they do with these containers is this container is going to be about 22 feet long, which divide that by 3 and you'll have your meters. And it's going to be, what am I doing here? Okay, no. Okay, that's gone. Hide that. Okay, I'm back to this. So I'm going to then have them back it up. Now, what they have is the meter is actually on a truck bed of sorts. It's on something. It's rolling, so it's not going to be at ground level. So, but what in these containers then have a ramp, a metal ramp that you pull out and drop there. So I'll just pull that out and leave it out for a couple of days while I'm loading everything. Hopefully they don't make me load it in a day. I think I have a 3-day window with it. That's what it was, unloading it. So when I first went to Alaska, but who knows? The rules change. One has to be ready for anything. So I'll be calling them next week and saying, okay, what are their new rules? What are we doing here? And it's a weird thing. Do I talk to the Georgian people first, or do I talk to the Alaskans? Well, what I'm going to do is talk to the Alaskans and get as much information as possible. Then go to the Georgians and ask the Georgians, can you talk to the Alaskans so we can make this all in one big movement rather than in two? Because the thing I don't want to happen as much as possible is I don't want my container sitting around on docks for weeks on end, which will probably happen somewhere. We just live in those kind of times. So, but anyway, I'm thinking about that. I have my extra tough boots, so I can walk through everything there. I can walk through snow, through ice. I didn't bring those to Georgia with me because I looked outside and it's just like, yeah, unless I go into the mountains in the winter, I'm not going to need these. But I will bring them because they are such nice things. And that was like one of the hallmarks of living where I did in Alaska. Such a wet environment. Even in the summer, you get rain quite frequently, but in the winter, in October, you often get like 3 or 4 weeks of rain in a row, or maybe not. It always changes year by year. So yeah, I'm looking forward to doing that, and then and fortunately, I have a hand truck, a dolly, which I can load my boxes on and take them out. If I'm doing it by myself, which I'm sure sometimes I will be, I'll also get help from friends. And I've heard from one friend. I think I've got the people who will pick me up at the airport, at the ferry terminal, and take me back. Work all these things out, but I'm not going to do a big deal on there. I'm thinking of talking to someone about maybe giving a presentation in the library about my life in Georgia. And it's a small town library, and it's March, there isn't that much to do, so people will come, and that's kind of cool. So I think we've got Michael trying to break in here, but he's not breaking in. He's just getting my my information, and he can it'll take him a couple minutes to turn this around and come back on. So there you are, Michael. I just sent it off into the wilderness. So but yeah, so and now I spend a lot of time thinking about all these practical details of my journeys. And the journey is in several parts. The first part is basically getting to Alaska, which I've got all the tickets for, so I'm not worried about that. The next part is spending time in Alaska, and I still don't know, how my time will be filled. It won't all be filled with the container. I hope to have, if I arrive on Saturday, I'll probably go to a local church on the Presbyterian church on Sunday. I always wished there was an Orthodox church there. There is one in Juneau, the next town down, but they didn't get that far because I think the Tlingit Indians in the area scared them, and I'm not joking at all. And then there were, but yeah, I have to get everything filled up by in the container, shipped off by Thursday afternoon. And then I'll probably on Friday, I will probably have a garage sale, I guess would be the best way to term it. Get rid of the stuff like there's a nice piece of furniture that I'm not taking with me. There's some tools I'm not taking with me. I'm not taking that really professional quality hand truck with me. I'm not taking my television set with me. All this stuff I'm going to unload there, get a few dollars for. I don't know how much, but a few. So, well, let's bring Michael on. And Michael is out there in the central time zone. How are you doing?
Actually, it's Eastern time zone, believe it or not.
Oh, Eastern, that's right.
Michigan just gets inside Eastern.
Right.
So, yeah, there's actually a tiny bit of the Upper Peninsula that's central, believe it or not. But right, the part that's adjacent to Wisconsin. But
right.
That's like
that's interesting.
Upper Peninsula. Never been there. Foreign country.
Yeah. Yoopers.
Yeah. Different people.
For those of you who don't know, Michigan is divided into two halves, divided by two Great Lakes, and the lower half is kind of looks like a mitt.
Yeah.
And then the upper half is like one another like hand or something going across.
Yeah.
And that Upper Peninsula it's called, Upper, but it's like kind of Upper Uper, and they have a very strange accent up there.
Yeah.
They're really isolated from the rest of Michigan, although they're connected to Wisconsin. So
Yeah. So, yeah, interesting state. So,
yeah. Well, welcome aboard, and
yeah, good to be here.
we did it. We got over 12,000
Yeah.
thanks to your little
Yeah.
money.
Kept
That
kept
helps.
things
It helps.
lubricated
Yeah.
throughout.
Because
So,
you know what it is if people, well, there's psychology to all of this, and for
yes.
one thing, this is why I'm convinced YouTube now does not let the views go to zero.
Mm,
They always have one, because I think they figured out if there's one person watching, another person will hop on and go, oh, there's already one person there, so then they'll come. But if it says zero,
yeah.
then people get this weird thing in their mind, like, wow, I guess no one else is here.
Yeah. Nobody cares. So why should I care? Right.
Right, exactly. So I
Psychology.
always am now, and I've played with it to see, okay, when does it? I have another computer open with my other channel looking at it, and I said, no, that doesn't count as a view. So, what does count as a view? And it's there whether this channel is open or not.
Mm-hmm.
So evidently, it's there just as and it's not me, because that is to say, it's not me looking at me.
Yeah.
It's they want us to have, I guess, that's the bottom for us now.
Yeah. Who knows? But I'm glad you made it. I'm glad you can push just a little more to get a bit of.
Yeah, I want to get
Question.
over $400, and then I will actually officially have the 12,000.
Gotcha. I
Because
see. Yeah.
a certain amount of money has been siphoned off. And like I said, I also want to make just a bit more money to cover my food costs and such, just to make sure I'm good on that. And whatever miscellaneous stuff. I almost ended up paying $700 for a lawyer to try to understand the customs service. And this guy showed up, literally called me and said, you don't know me. And my name's Jeff. And he said, and I says, I've been living here for a while, a couple of years. And I said, I found you through Georgia Crossroads. And then that led me into the anadromous. And he said, that was interesting. So we got together, and then he told me he had just sent about half the amount I had sent. And he said it took 240 days to get here.
Whew.
But the difference is he started with an American company from Montana. So there was no, I am right on the coast in Alaska.
Yeah,
I started at the barge going down. So there's a whole system there that works.
Yeah.
But then he explained to me how he did it. And I said, so you didn't go to customs beforehand? And he says, no. And this was one of these things that was in my mind the whole time, thinking like, okay, I'm going to have to go from here to here to here. And then, and no one along the way explained to me, you don't have to worry about customs until the thing actually crosses through the barrier.
Right.
And this guy is like me. He has the same 5-year temporary permit. So we were on the same page there. And then he told me how it worked for him. And, I said, so how did you write the things that were in your boxes? And he had a bunch of books and such too. And he said, I just wrote books. I didn't make a list at all, but I wrote an amount on a label and labeled it, taped it up on that with a sticky label.
Mm-hmm.
And that worked. And so he got through pretty easily. So I'm saying, okay, so they're certainly not. He said it looked like they didn't even open any boxes.
That's good.
So what seems to happen is that the actual company you hire then they submit your stuff for you. So essentially what's going to happen is I'm going to go there, make sure all my stuff has labels on it, and then pack it away. But I'm going to lowball it all, because if I said, this is worth, even if I said $1 a record sounds quite big, but instead I'll have a box, you just got $5, record library. And just keep it, he said, just keep it really vague.
Yeah.
And he said he did have some problem, but it was the way he was shipping it through this American company.
Yeah.
He got his stuff stuck in Amsterdam for something like 6 weeks.
Oh.
And they wouldn't send it on. They asked him for they wanted a packing list, and he was saying, no, I'm not giving you a packing list, it's just personal possessions. And whoever was handling the control at that point was kind of crazy.
Yeah.
So but then he said he threatened to have them have his material listed as missing property, and that suddenly they shipped
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, of course they did. Yeah.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
figures.
So just a hello out there, just to let you know, we did get to the $12,000, and we now have 12,258. I'm trying to make sure we get at least over 400, so it actually I have $12,000 and not the 400. I don't know the exact number, but a certain amount over 3% was taken by the PayPal and GoFundMe. So I'm trying to even that amount out, because this amount is the bottom line. I didn't ask for the maximum. I asked for the minimum. And then what I'm going to do later in the month, after the StreamYard stuff comes back on for free for me, I did so many of these that I used up all my free hours. And this is the last one I can possibly do. But I am grateful to God that, somehow we did it before. It would have been kind of depressing in a way if I had to get through this. And it's just like, so we still need $725, and I would have come on through YouTube, but I like this interaction. And I had some nice interaction the other day with the Miriam and Rod and Joseph on, and it was just a nice discussion. I don't know if you saw that, but
it's not part of it, I think. Yeah, it was very interesting to hear about Armenia and Georgia, and
yeah. There's definitely
fantasy
a civil
stories.
rivalry.
Yeah. So yeah, there was some interesting discussion there. So
yeah, well, I made a video where I talked about my trip to Georgia. It was just like it's about a 27-hour trip. I slept on the train there and slept on the train back and spent the day in Yerevan walking around. And I liked it, but my main thought was, I got to get myself back to Tbilisi. It's just like I love living here, and Armenia just struck me as a different kind of zone. It wasn't that I didn't like it; it was more that, there were aspects that I saw, but I don't know. The Armenians are a little bit more reserved. They're a little more. It felt a bit like they were still more in the Soviet Union. There's a bit more rules. And as soon as I got back to Georgia, it's like, good, chaos again.
Georgians like it loose.
Yes, they do. They certainly do. And that's one of the problems in the country, too. That kind of looseness can open the door for all sorts of things. I was just talking with a girl at a local who runs a local bookstore here the other day. And she was saying that she was studying law and then realized how difficult it would be. And I talked about, the problem is Georgia hasn't figured out how to install the rule of law yet. So there's a lot of clannish and tribal kind of outlooks on customs and such. They're a modern country until you get out of the city. And then there's some villages here where you're suddenly back at least 100 years.
Wow. That's crazy.
And everyone feels connected to that stuff. Even the people here who are living, they have their smartphones. Everybody has a smartphone, but still, there is a sense that
actually, I don't have a smartphone. Thank you.
What is that? What is that?
It's a flip phone. Yeah, you know what this is. I don't know if a lot of other people do anymore.
It's a dumb phone.
Yeah, it is. I got tired.
I wish I could keep mine, but unfortunately, my Alaskan bank, I went to the Czech Republic and I couldn't use my card at all from my Alaskan bank. So I had to, fortunately, I had over $1,000 worth of money on my Georgian bank account. Otherwise, I would have been really in trouble while traveling. I was staying there for 2 weeks. And the card, literally, I couldn't use it anywhere. And it had a chip in it. but they were switching systems, and they'd gone to this other system. There's the tap cards where you just tap something.
Yeah.
And my bank I call them up. So are you going to do that? Are you going to add the tap to the card? And they go, no, you just have to use the digital wallet. And I said, thanks. I know what that means. I have to get an app. I have to use, thanks for making me buy or get. I didn't end up buying it, but making me get a smartphone.
Yeah, that's really annoying.
And fortunately, Peter from the Netherlands, who came here, I
Right.
met him originally in Landau, Germany in 2022 when I met Paul Vanderklay there. He
Right.
came up to me and he had heard me saying this thing and said, here, I work for these guys who are working with this new private phone. It's called a pre-phone or PriPhone. And he gave me one, and that was really lovely of him.
Yeah.
And I didn't get it to work until the beginning of 2023. I was just like not in a hurry to do that. And I still haven't gotten the app to where I have to get the Alaskan app to work, and I have to do that before I go. I just apps and everything. It's just like, no, it's just too much.
I'm the same way, Bern. I'm the same way.
Yeah.
I got a smartphone when I turned 18 back in 2017.
When I turned 8.
Here
you are. You're an adult now.
They were barely around when I was 8,
Right.
Which was a good thing. I remember my dad had BlackBerry, which was, kind of like a big step up at that time.
Right.
And we even found that annoying as a family because he was so much more distracted by it than he had been previously. And then, but yeah, I remember when I got a smartphone, it was just, I realized what a dumb mistake, because I was trying to fit in with everyone in high school.
Yeah.
And I realized, and it took me a few years before I realized I don't need this. There's a few conveniences, like the maps tool's the most useful thing on it. But I realized I just don't need this. This is distracting. I'm wasting time on this. So I got rid of it. So that's where I'm at. And I haven't missed it since, really.
Right.
So.
Yeah, there's 2 or 3 things on it that I find useful. And the rest of it is just like, I have YouTube channels, but no, I'm not going to. When I ride in the buses here, I'm not watching YouTube channels.
Yeah, exactly.
I am reading books, physical books.
Exactly. Or just staring out the window,
Yeah, and that's even better.
Yeah.
Because it's really like staring into this thing. Now they have that new Apple Vision Pro. And I don't know if you've seen people walking around with this thing. And
not yet. I'll let you know.
They're now out in the real world. Except they're not in the real world, but their body is.
Yeah.
And they have augmented reality, which means to me it's like diseased reality.
Yeah.
But that thing is going to grow. I can feel this coming because it hits the exact same nerve that smartphones do. And that is to say, it's that nerve that people are all going to want to be cool seeing it, being seen with it on, which is really going to cut people off from each other. Did you ever see The Matrix?
No, never watched it. My friends liked it.
The first one is good, but the second 2, 3 are not really worth the time. But the first one, I don't, philosophically, I've got all sorts of problems with it on a Gnostic level. But one of the things that it shows is essentially people aren't used for anything anymore except for the power of their bodies. So they're kept in little pods and they're plugged in, and then they live in their minds inside this whole virtual world. And it's like, okay, we see that coming, because what's going to happen if everyone is online, if everyone is in this alternative reality? Then who is doing the real things that need to get done?
Who's keeping?
And are we just going to have special chambers in our houses, like you just lay on this, like now we have the gaming chair, which is like lumbar support stuff, but eventually it'll be the VR pod or the AR pod or whatever it is.
With a built-in toilet and such, right?
Yeah. Or we're moving towards WALL-E, all those really fat people.
Yeah.
Around.
What do you think about WALL-E? What are your thoughts on that movie?
I thought it was pretty interesting.
Probably one of Pixar's best works, honestly.
I think so. And although I don't see it happening in any way like that, but
Right.
nevertheless, as an image, it's fascinating. And the idea that there are all these people out there floating around,
Yeah.
none of them can move anymore, and that
Yeah.
they're glued to their screens. They've got them in front of them, but it's kind of like I don't know, it's almost like an old folks home with screens,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
everyone's just being tended by
And
their
and
machinery.
then this bright white environment which has no, texture, as you might
Mhm.
notice, and
I
also
notice these things.
yeah. And also the fact that the robots, of course, are ironically more human than the humans. So,
Right, right. No, that was it almost seems like a lost world now, the amount of, actual thought that went into something like that,
mhm.
you know, uh,
Yeah,
back in the day.
yeah, because now Pixar and Disney movies are kinda on my mind and my mom's mind recently. We talk a lot about this stuff, and the Disney Pixar, the animation studios are just in total irrelevance now, which is just
Right.
fascinating, to someone who grew up with this stuff. So,
Well, I came up with an idea for a story that I never, wrote, and if someone wants to go ahead and steal it and write it, feel free. But it was about a future in which, we're talking about Neuralink right now, putting
yeah.
something in your head to connect you. Well, what if we can get inside of our dreams and watch them?
Oh.
And we can watch each other's dreams. Imagine
Mhm.
this. So then what happens is some people become famous for their dreams. And more than one person can plug into the dream. Some people, it's like everyone wants certain dreams because certain dreamers are good. And then also there's you can also get little kits to share them with your friends so you can share each other's dreams kind of thing.
Hmm.
The total mergification of dream life. And
Huh.
then what happens is there's what some parents realize is that the best way that children get dreams is if they're abused.
Oh, dear.
Yeah, exactly. So there's that
Yeah.
aspect, but then there's another thing. So the police are dealing with, how do we stop the proliferation of abuse? Uh, but then there's another thing, and that is that they find this one girl, and she's never done it before. And then her friend says, "Come on, you've never shared a dream with anyone." She says, "My parents don't want me to do that." And so finally, she shares it with her friend. She dreams, and then the friend who wanted to see into the girl who'd never done it before dies, but no one knows why.
Hmm.
Because every time they bring someone to look into her dream, they die. But
Wow.
suddenly the military takes an interest
Mhm.
because it's like, oh, kind of a psychic warfare. What's going on with this dream? And so they bring a guy in who's like an expert in kind of symbols and such. I hate to use the word symbologist since it was so poorly used in the Da Vinci Code, but
Mm.
uh, but an expert in symbols. But it's a guy who doesn't claim to have any dreams. He says, "I never remember any dreams. I don't know anything about it." But he's really reality oriented, but he knows a lot about symbols. And so he comes in. He absolutely refuses to plug into her, and he's also finds out the girl was never abused in any way as a child. She was raised very, very well. The girl doesn't remember her own dreams at all either. So
Hmm.
there's this whole story. Anyway, it goes on from there where they go into hiding and such. But it's the
Yeah.
idea that the things inside of us will become our uh, entertainment. And
Yeah.
one of the holy grails in motion pictures has been, and you sometimes see this represented in movies, is to see a three-dimensional object come out of the screen actually, but without glasses.
Right.
See, the
Yeah.
glasses thing, this is one reason why the VR stuff is eventually not going to work. It's the same reason that, nobody really wants to go see 3D movies Oh, Avatar is back again. Okay, let's go watch that. That's a good one. But so many of them are not. And
Yeah.
also the whole process of putting the glasses on and finding the right spot in the theater. Because if you're off to the side, it's going to look weird.
Yeah.
And so it's just this idea. And one of the reasons why they can't make a 3D object come out of the screen is because it is the amount. I mean, it's like an absolute exponential amount of information you would need to get that. And people will often say, well, what about holograms? They go like, that's like one image and they don't look that good. You know, and you're not at all confused. You don't say to yourself, oh, there's an image coming out at you. You know it's a hologram.
Yeah,
And,
right.
And at the same time, that's 1 second of 45 frames of 24 frames a second of a whole movie. And so how are you going to get that to move? Well, that's the question no one can answer.
Yeah.
And as a result, so the VR thing is to try to get us, you know, to walk around inside of it. But that's where I think eventually it's like, really, do we want to walk around wearing goggles? They'd have to make them awfully comfortable.
Yeah. No, it doesn't. No, I refuse. But I'm just stubborn, so you know.
Oh yeah. To me, that's like a definite
resistant to technological change.
And I think a lot of people feel that way too. Just as I think the Neuralink kind of idea is one as well. You know, don't plug this into me.
Yeah.
But if we get to the point where these things work, we will be facing some serious things because look at smartphones. Mm-hmm. They changed the whole world in probably in under 5 years.
Yeah, I'd say less than 5 years for sure. And it's just
if they started around 2005, you know, I think that's when Steve Jobs announced them. Within 5 years, the world was changed. And by 2012, that's one of the reasons why the 20 teens look so bizarre.
Yeah.
So, well, let me go ahead and talk to whoever's watching out there, folks. I'm trying to make up the difference of the money taken away from me by PayPal and GoFundMe, and there are links below. Trying to get over $400 more. So we got $12,258. So it's not very far to go, and I'm sure someone's going to add some more money. And thank you to Andri in Albania for giving another $100. Niels gave us $19. A couple of Europeans there. And thanks to Rod for giving us $1,000 to push us over a couple days ago. So that's really wonderful. I'm going to play a bit of music here. I'll let you choose. I'm going to give you some possibilities.
All right.
Okay. So there are children under 10 years old in Japan doing heavy metal. There is some very primitive but wonderful sounding sacred harp music along with sheet music to follow along with it. There is a Hawaiian tune from 1930. Choose from one of those.
They all appeal to me, but I have to see the children doing heavy metal.
Okay, folks. Well, there's only 6 of you watching, so I hope you are 5 actually, if we discount the one. I hope you're ready for this. This is the kind of thing I'll be watching people come on and then shut it down instantly. But here we go. Crazy Japanese pop culture. If this gets shut down in the middle of it, don't worry, folks. I'll be back. I don't know how the Japanese are. The French are bad at shutting things down. The Poles are bad. Other people are. The Russians are bad. But Americans, we just have too much stuff. So here we go. Japanese baby heavy metalers.
正さとは愚かさとはそれが何か見せつけてちっちゃな頃から優等生気づいたが大人になってた 後は当然の把握経済の動向も通勤とチェック重情な精神で入社しまく社会人じゃ当然のルールですへえうっせえうっせえうっせえはあなたが思うより健康です異彩が最高ようなあなたじゃわからないかもねああよく似合うそのかもなくかもないメロディーうっせえうっせえうっせえは頭の敵が違うので問題はなしつっても私も犯人間殴ったりするのはノーセンキューだったら言葉の重厚をその頭に突きつけて腕はマジやばない止まりしない不変不満食べて慣れの果てサディスティックに変貌する精神スーダウェイな席が空いたグラスあればすぐに次なさいみんなつまみやすいように串走りなさい会計や注文は政治要求覚えにした低減のマナーですうっせえうっせえうっせえはくせえ口ふざけ上げかいです絶対絶対現代の代弁者は私やろがいもう見飽きたわ二番政治以外のパロディうっせえうっせえうっせえはまるまると肉ついたその顔面にバツうっせえうっせえうっせえはうっせえうっせえうっせえは私が俗に言う天才ですうっせえうっせえうっせえはあなたが思うより健康です異彩が最高ようなあなたじゃわからないかもね集まらねえ何回気がするんだそのメモリーうっせえうっせえうっせえは私は大概だけどどうなっていて問題はないし
There is a reason people don't listen to Japanese popular music that much. Part of it is just- it's so far out there, you know. It's
Oh
crazy.
yeah.
I
Yeah.
did notice an older girl, probably around 20 or so, on the keyboards.
Yes.
I assume she's the babysitter.
Yeah, something like that. That sounded very Japanese and not very heavy, which is not
Yes.
surprising.
Yeah. Well, with
Sounds a
Japan,
lot like yeah.
this whole thing is done with. There's a whole culture. They call them idols, and
Mhm.
Korea has a very similar thing where
Oh, yeah.
these entities are put together by groups trying to market these things. So something like BTS in Korea is a totally fabricated entity.
Oh yeah.
You
It's
know,
quite
Lady Blackpink is totally fabricated.
yeah, it's quite sinister, some of it I've read.
Oh, trust me, I had a Japanese friend back in Alaska, and there was this group in the late 70s who were doing disco music. I have their record. It was put out. They were trying to cash in on the disco wave, but with a Japanese emphasis. But they tried to sell it here, and it was seen. You know, we saw it. But it was two girls, and they called it, I think it was Lady Pink or something like that. And my friend said, yeah, they were basically just prostitutes. And they were just, you know, there was nothing else going on there. But and then they got used up and thrown out. You never saw one album and they were gone.
Yeah.
No,
Wow.
a very strange world.
Yeah, no kidding. Wow.
So what have you been up to lately?
Me? I've been sick. If you notice me blowing my nose,
Okay.
okay. I am convalescing. So, yeah, just kind of taking it easy the past few days, you know. Yeah, you know, it's
yeah, well, it's that time. It's getting to be that time of year.
Yeah,
when
I think I got it from
does
church.
winter start to end up in Michigan?
Okay, so that's an interesting question. Well, actually, the past 2 days, it was 60 yesterday.
Yeah, it was 60 here too.
Yeah, Fahrenheit, of course. Sorry, any of you Celsius users, but no conversions for me. I don't know how to do it. So, uh, yeah, so it was 60 yesterday, and it was,
About 19 or 20 Celsius.
yeah, it was about,
So,
and then it was near 60 the day before, and it's finally back into the 40s, and it's gonna get down into the 30s again, which is
right, right.
typical for February in
Yeah.
Michigan. But um, yeah, but usually we get winter through January and February, and then March is the wild card because you never
Mhm.
know what's going to happen. My birthday's in March, so
Right.
I remember it was either my 11th or 12th birthday. It was 60 degrees and sunshine outside. And then I remember another more recent birthday, it was warmer, but there was a 30-mile-per-hour gusts of wind and ice, and it was just, it's wild weather here, usually very windy in
Right.
March. And it's just, it can either be really warm or really cold. You're just never sure. And then April, well, is the cruelest month, so it's usually just wet and dreary and not
Mhm.
very warm.
Mhm.
So, yeah, you're not safely into spring until May. Long
Right.
story short. So,
Yeah.
because, well, it snowed in May even a couple years ago. So,
Yeah. Well, we're in the kind of the valley here between two mountain ranges. I mean, we're still up a ways. By Midwestern standards, we're up in the mountains, about
yeah.
1,500
Oh,
feet.
yeah.
But down here, I mean, it'll start warming up and warming up. March is often the wild card month here. I've seen a little bit of snow in March, but it doesn't get that cold here. It gets
Mhm.
to 0 Celsius, and people who are like freezing, I go, "What are you talking about?
Yeah,
That's just
exactly.
32 degrees."
That's
It's just like,
warm.
yeah, exactly. And I have this whole theory that we get conditioned by our thermometers essentially. So
Mm,
if it say it's going to 0, you start saying, "Ooh, it's going to 0."
mhm.
Yeah, 0 sounds bad. But whereas in fact 0 is, there isn't much difference between 28 degrees Fahrenheit and 32 or 33 degrees.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if I mean, it's nice that the water is doing something,
Yes,
but when I look at the weather, I'm more interested in me. So,
exactly.
for instance, 100 degrees is 38 degrees here, and the thing I like about Fahrenheit is 0 is truly life-threateningly cold,
Yes.
and 100 is truly just too hot.
Mhm.
So, as you get closer to either one, in your mind, you start saying, "Oh man, it's going to be 0 tomorrow." And if you say it's going to be 0, you take notice of that. It's not a little fact. The
Right.
same with
Exactly.
at the end of the week it'll be 100. You take notice of that fact. Whereas to me, it's like the only thing I would take notice of is like, oh no, we're in the 30s again. It's like in Celsius. So it means eventually it's going to get hotter and hotter. But then it's like 2 Celsius degrees for every rather 2 Fahrenheit degrees for every Celsius. So I've gotten used to it, but I have noticed the psychological conditioning of just because we are creatures who work with mnemonic devices to remember things.
Right.
And if when people act like 0 Celsius is actually cold, it does strange things to them. So Georgians tend to live as if summer was the only time of the year, the main
Yeah.
time. So in the winter, they keep their children just totally bundled up, like little Michelin men. They're just
Yeah.
so bundled up. Whereas in Alaska, you see kids at 28 degrees, babies. They're bundled up, but it's not super thick. It's not that
No,
massive
exactly.
layer, And
Yeah.
Alaskans tend to look at the main season as winter.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
you live for that, and then when you get to the summer, you're just like, "Wow, not
It's
bad."
great.
And
Yeah.
once in a while, we'll get up to 90 and, "Okay, that's really hot." And,
Yeah.
you know
Yeah. You just live with it. But
Yeah.
yeah, here it's funny because it gets into the 40s here, and you see young people with shorts. They just walk
Right.
around with shorts on, you know. It's
Right.
just,
Right.
it's no big deal, you know. 40 is warm in the winter, so
Yeah. So we are talking about the difference now between Celsius and Fahrenheit. If you've just come on, if you're hanging on, what do you prefer, Celsius or Fahrenheit? If you have a thought, if you've experienced you can speak if you've experienced them both, or if you just have Fahrenheit.
yeah.
So, but anyway, I've got over $12,000. I've got 12,258, but I really need to get to 12,400 because that's the actual $12,000 amount. And I need as much money as I can get to do this because, like I said, I didn't factor in the food costs along the way.
Mm,
So it's just going to be, and food costs in airports and Alaska is much more expensive.
mm,
I was just looking today I was thinking about where am I going to spend. I want this area in Alaska is kind of spread out. And I have friends who are living about 2-3 miles away from the center of town, and they'd put me up, but it's just too far, and I need to spend my time. Actually, the inside of the storage unit, there is a place to sleep there, and I don't know if it's totally disgusting, but if it's not, I'm going to get in touch with the guy this week and say, "So, what about that place? Can I stay there for a week? Because I don't care. Like I say, I'm not. But I looked at the one of the main. They're not a particularly great motel or hotel. I looked at the price. It was $159 a night, and for the amount of time I would be there, it would be like something like $1,300 for 8 nights.
for like a Motel 6?
Not quite, but a little bit better than that, but not a whole
Yeah.
lot.
Wow.
So,
That's
but yeah,
crazy.
it's just like wow,
Prices are,
you know.
yeah.
And the way it is I had to buy a night in Juneau, just 6 hours, because I'm getting off the plane at 12 midnight, and then I have to get on. I have to be at the ferry terminal by 6 in the morning, and fortunately, the hotels there will drive you.
Hmm.
But yeah, that's going to cost me $200 for those 6 hours.
Jeez.
Yeah, and for some reason, and these prices, I mean, I remember them not long. I mean, I've been here 5 years, so I remember them going back about 7 years, and the same hotel. I'm staying in the cheapest hotel. The one that I really wanted to stay in was $250 a night, and I remember staying there, and it was only 120, 130 7 years ago, and it went up double basically.
Wow.
So I'm looking. There's certain aspects of this trip. One of the things I realize is I'm taking this trip, and it's like a surgical strike. I'm flying into Seattle. I'll be in the airport, so most of what I see of Seattle, I will get out. I have a cousin there. I will be out for one evening on the way up and on the way down. And then I'll be out in Alaska, but I'm not going to anywhere in Juneau, which is about a 70,000 person town. And so the next thing I see will be Haines, Alaska, and Haines, Alaska will be, I'm sure that I will see differences, but it'll be roughly the same and maybe a little more expensive. But I realize I'm not actually going to America, so I won't. I'm spending just the barest amount of time, which is fine because I'm not in that kind of mood to. I'm sure I could go get some serious culture shock if I said to my cousins, "Why don't you take me to the certain areas of Seattle?" And I'm sure I'd go like, "Oh my goodness," and I'm just not in that mood. I'm pretty good, and then I'll come back to Europe and spend about 10 days or so, maybe a little longer, visiting friends as free as possible. I do have to buy a couple of nights in a hotel in London, but I'm going to see if I can check out the Unheard offices there and see what they're like. Unfortunately, there won't be a speaker or an interviewee while I'm there, but it'll be interesting just to go up there and talk to them and tell them, look, I'm writing stuff, and see if they're interested in anything. They'll probably say, go online and do this, but I like the real to actually meet people
Yeah.
But yeah, so I'm looking forward to it. I think Tayo is in London. Uh,
Somewhere over
and
there.
yeah, if he is, I'd like to meet him. And Joseph Alford, who I just talked to, he's in London. So I'm going to be there 3 days. I'm going to be visiting my friends, the Quay brothers, who are
Oh,
puppet
yeah.
filmmakers, and they're just finishing up a combination animation and live action film,
Hmm.
which is certainly not going to be on anyone's radar. It's funny.
Yeah.
I mean, they are super respected. They had a show of their designs and little kind of movie sets for their puppet films that was shown in the Museum of Modern Art, and um, they so they're very well known, but they can't get any backing for their films these days because what's happened is when they started making films in the 80s, there was money from the British BBC, who they had a channel where they would show things like Later at Night, kind of experimental films, unusual stuff, more artistic things. Now those avenues no longer exist. Everything's been swallowed up by a combination of financial interests, commerciality, and the message, and so yeah, but I will spend more time essentially in England than I will in America as far as actual cultural observation. I'll be walking through the streets of London. I'll probably go visit my puppet friends in Brussels. I think I can spend the night there. They have a special apartment for puppeteers that they let me stay there for a week for free before. I'm pretty sure they'll do that again. uh, and then visit friends in Paris and Lyon in France, take a bus there, and then fly back. And actually, I'm flying. I have an 18-hour layover in Athens, Greece. And there's a guy, John Halley, who lives there. I'll see if he lives in Athens. If he does,
Yeah.
then I'd like to visit him. So, but yeah, it's strange. I feel on one hand, I feel connected. Unfortunately, it's all through this stuff
Yeah.
to what's happening in America. But on the other hand, I feel disconnected from it as well.
Yeah. The global village.
Yeah, it is strange. But also, life on the ground here is so interesting to me.
Yeah.
I'm going to see a puppet version of the classic Don Quixote tomorrow that a friend of mine is doing, and I'm bringing a Russian friend with me. And I have another friend who's a dancer. I'll go see her. I'll go see other dancers. I'll see other puppet shows, concerts. 2 weeks ago, I was at a philosophical supra. The supra is a traditional meal where they have toasts and such. And it was a great evening. We spent about 4 hours together talking and toasting to each other. And then I made a friend out of that. He came over here and we had a very interesting discussion. It was great because he was like really drilling me on my ideas. And when I talk online, there are some people who will really give me some serious kickback. But this guy was like hardcore philosopher, so it was like, oh, good. I love that. And I love having to defend my ideas and really take them out for a ride.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, it's nice when you can do that with someone because it shows that you can trust them, that you're willing to push each other and disagree with each other and size each other up, so to speak. And I have that with a really good friend here, and I'm grateful for that because I don't feel I can do that with all the people I know here in America because everyone's just so sensitive. Yeah, worried about just being picked at and poked at, and I feel some of that myself, and it's hard to get over it, but it's
yeah. Well, also the whole idea of positivity and positive thinking
yes,
and everything. It sounds good to always encourage people,
Mm.
but in the end, what it leads to is everyone who has something negative to say has to shut up.
Yes,
And
yeah,
that's not good.
no, that's not good at all, and then the problem is when you're trying to be positive all the time, you can only be positive. So when something actually goes wrong, it's you almost have to take a totalitarian, kind of like what you said there. You almost have to take a totalitarian stance against anything bad or
Right.
negative, or
Well,
Yeah.
that's where that's one of the major roots of woke culture is America's positive thinking culture.
Yes.
Because what it does now, you just apply these to the various marginalized groups, and suddenly no marginalized person can ever be criticized.
Yes.
Because that's not positive. You want to be positive. You want to affirm is another word that's taken the place more of positive. Positivity, now everyone's affirming it. So you get affirmative surgery, which means cutting things off.
Yeah.
So well, let's play another song.
Yeah.
I am trying to get to we got $12,258. We did it. We crossed the hump, but I'm trying to get now the money that PayPal and GoFundMe took from me in order to allow me to use their services. That's another $400 above that. So we're getting close. If you feel like contributing, there are links below, PayPal and GoFundMe, and I've already factored in the extra money they will be taking away, which is why I'm saying 400. Okay, we heard the Japanese heavy metal kids. So okay. Oh, this is cool. This is in there are these brass bands in the Balkans, and they most of them are gypsies or Roma people. And there is one piece I heard. Now, one of the interesting things about these groups is they play with. It's like if you imagine in your mind, if you've ever heard the phrase German Oompa music, so it's like something like that. Well, they play with that kind of rhythm, but they've sped it up. But something happened when the Iron Curtain came down. These people suddenly got a dose of ska. And so they suddenly started saying, there was that neo-ska revival at the end of the 90s. And so they suddenly started applying these kind of techniques to the brass bands. And it was really fascinating. Now, one of the things that's on the list of the things I most wish I could find again, but it was just in one ear and out the other. But I'm good at this. I may find it someday. I was in this Czech van with these Czech puppeteers in what has to be the craziest trip I've ever taken in my life in terms of feeling like I was going to die. And yes, the Czech statistics are the worst of all Europe. And they were playing, though, this loud, they were playing a CD of this Balkan brass band that was just the most, they had mixed it not only with ska, but with dub music. So it's got this big, and I was just like, what is this music? It was the most amazing. And I asked them, they told me something, but I didn't remember it. And otherwise, I would own it right now if I could remember it. So anyway, little Balkan gypsy brass band music with a dance. I'm guessing this is either in somewhere in the Balkans or over in Romania, where there is an awful lot of Romani people. that's where it's at.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's a lot of that stuff. I've picked up a few albums over the years of that. I mean, it's just as a genre, there's just piles of it. Most of it coming from the Roma people, but I love that stuff. Hey, Bern, who's there? Joseph Alford, enjoying the stream. The dream story idea sounds great. Definitely
Yes.
been interested in reading it. Well, I never wrote it, and I don't have a plan to. So if you want to talk to me and steal it, feel free.
Yeah.
So
That's a
actually, I was
brilliant
thinking
premise.
of doing a YouTube channel of just all the ideas I've had that I know I'll never get to before I die. Because I've got like,
Yeah.
I once figured out when I was like about 30 years old that I had 80 ideas for stories. And one of the main reasons I've not gotten to them all is because I don't have a lot of money and I've had to spend my time working. So, you know, it's just, and then after a while, as time changes, you look at these things differently. But I've got probably about 10 short stories that are squirreled away. A couple of them have been published. A lot of them are sitting in my journals. And then I've got 2 screenplays that I've written. But I write these things. See, I never think about the market. I just go ahead and write them.
Right.
And so I haven't heard back yet from CW what he thinks about the 5 Masters of Reality. Hopefully it didn't depress him too much, because it sounded like he was like he was saying, what about the other one? Because I think he'd already started to read it and realized that I was coming through with a scythe on that one. Just like,
I'm looking forward to reading it, honestly, if you get it published.
Well, I'm thinking if I can get a few more dollars here before I go, like I said, I'll come back and do this again. But if I can get a few more dollars, I was thinking of just going ahead and sending a copy to the Amazon KDP Publishing and have that so people can buy it on demand. There's a bunch of stuff I should do, but part of it is if I wait until everything aligns, it just won't get out there. And I mean, that's how I've lived most of my life. So, you know, people will often say, how did you go traveling? You know, you must have had a lot of money. And I go, no. I'm just very clever. You know, I know how to travel without spending money, or know how to get money. And then, you know, I would often come back from my puppet trips and it was just like a crash land. You know, I actually applauded myself because eventually I got to the point where I came back and life wasn't terrible immediately afterwards. So because I still had some money left and, you know, had worked things out. And I mean, also, I don't want to go into all that, but I figured if I waited, you know, people will often say, you know, well, when I retire, I'm going to do X. I was just like, no, you're not.
Life is not,
and if you do that when you're 60 or 65 or whatever, chances are you're just going to be herded onto a cruise ship or cruise tour bus. You're going to go to someplace like New York and you're just going to go to Broadway shows. You're not really going to see the city.
Right.
You're going to have the tourist experience. Whereas I can safely say I went to the Czech Republic and had the real experience. I went to Brussels and did the real thing. I went to London and did the real thing. I went to Paris and really did the real thing. You know, I feel like Paris now, I've gone to so many times, I feel like it's like second nature now. You know, it's just like, when I get off the train, when I get off the plane, I just walk down there, I get on that train, I get off at that stop, and then I go to my, spend the night at a friend's, then get back on the next morning. You know, I can just see it all in my mind. It's not like a big mysterious thing to me.
Yeah.
But I like going back to places that I've been to already, because for me, that's how I get to know them. And the idea of going and going and going and always finding new places, to me, it's like drugs. It's like an addiction. And you're never satisfied, because there is something really seductive about the first time you're someplace.
Yes.
And you go into overdrive in your memory, and you can remember all, you know, the first time I was in Poland, I just have all these memories and such. But but if you just keep going for that new experience, it is like a drug trip. You're always going for that. Wow, ooh, that's different. I never experienced that before.
Yeah.
And I think that's not the way to live.
No.
I think we need to. So what I like to do is to go back to visit friends over and over, to visit, because I'm interested in puppetry. I keep going to visit puppeteers. I keep going to the same places. So I've been to Prague about 6 times now. Last time I went there for 2 weeks. The time before it was at least 2 weeks. I don't go to someplace a short term. The reason I'm going to Alaska for only 10 days is because, well, for one thing, I'm not going there to have a good time.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going there to do the biggest task in my life, and a physical task. And so also it's March. There isn't much to see in March. I mean, yeah, there is, but you really have to be embedded there to see it. You have to have a car. You have to go up the road. You have to, I can find things, and maybe a friend or two will think about driving me someplace to show me something. But I'm not going there for that. This is, in a sense, more of a farewell trip, so I don't want to stretch it out and make it too big. And then maybe someday I'll go back as a real, really to go back, and I'll go back at a time when I know more people are there and such. But I can already tell 5 years on, it's changed. Certain things have happened. Kids have grown up. The same people aren't working in the summer who were there when I was there. Certain establishments have closed. So I know it's already going to feel different than it had felt to me. So, and I really feel at home here now.
Mm-hmm.
And that's an important thing for me. So,
yeah.
Have you traveled much?
Yeah, we've done a lot of traveling. Unlike a lot of I don't know. It depends on everyone's situation, but I went to Europe a few times as a kid with my family. So we I think your camera's frozen. I'll wait till you come back.
Oh,
there we go. Yeah, we're back. Okay.
No, that was just me stopping like this.
Oh, was it?
Doesn't it look like I'm frozen?
It does. That's the problem.
I'm not a nervous person, so.
Yeah. Yeah, unlike me, you're always, you're always jittering. But yeah, I've traveled a fair bit. Let's see. What did we do? We went through Spain to get more through Spain to get to France. In France, we saw a number of good things. We were at Normandy beaches on D-Day, which was good.
Right.
That was memorable and meaningful.
So you were there on June 6th?
Yes, in 2011 it was. So it wasn't that was good because it wasn't a major anniversary.
Right.
So because otherwise it would have been flooded with people, and we didn't want
14 would have been a bigger year.
Yeah, no, it would have been too much. It was very good without too many people there. What was really interesting about that is there were a lot of reenactors, and we went up to talk to the reenactor. My mom or someone went up to talk to the reenactors, and it turns out they were French pretending to be Americans.
Interesting.
It's really interesting. And the people in Normandy still really love Americans and are grateful, tremendously grateful to Americans. Right. It's very different.
I've been told that. I haven't been to Normandy area myself, but I've been told that.
Yeah, so it's very different from how you get treated in, say, Paris. Right. Although the Parisians have relaxed a little bit of late, I think.
Yeah, I've never really had a problem in Paris, but that is because, unlike, unfortunately, your classic American tourist, I always knew a bit of French.
Mm-hmm.
And if you try, they're pretty helpful. But if you don't try, that's right. When it's kind of like it's like you have two things against each other. The French, particularly the Parisians, say, "Hey, our culture is no small fish in the sea here, so you should respect it." But then the Americans come and they're like, "Hello, do you speak English?" And that just drives them up a wall. They can't even say "Parlez-vous français" or something. It's like, or "Parlez-vous anglais." It's that they make no effort whatsoever.
Right. Exactly.
And so you have two, and there is a certain kind of American who will do that,
Yes.
especially the kinds of Americans who've learned that English is spoken almost everywhere. And so they will push that, and then wonder why France is just the wrong place to push that.
Yes, it is.
Especially Paris.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. So yeah, so that was interesting. The place I remember the best in France is a place called Order-sur-Glane.
oh, you went there? Yeah,
Yes,
I saw
we
that.
did.
I've always wanted to go
That
there.
haunted me.
Did you see it in The World at War?
No, I watched more World War II in color, which I realize now. I
No,
actually
watch
read your.
World at War. Watch World at War.
I need
It is
to, yeah.
the best place to start. It's the best series on World War
Yeah,
II.
I read
And
your
there's a
Amazon.
whole episode that about half of it is dedicated to there. And I really wanted to go, but I've never been there. So
Yeah, I read your Amazon review. I found your
Mhm.
Amazon review page. As usual, your comments there are as
you found
insightful.
stuff there. Okay, that's good to know.
Yeah.
I never have any idea who's reading that stuff. So
No, I started reading all of them because I find your thoughts so
there's a
informative
lot
and
in there.
just
Yeah.
thoughtful, you know.
Did
So
you? So you must have found my Georgian, rather Gravity from Above and The Anadromous Life essay pages.
oh, I found those back in 2019 when I first found your
Okay.
channel, and I dug into those because I was thinking, finally, someone who's answering my questions.
Yeah.
Because I like Peugeot, but he didn't. When he was asked about like why do people have tattoos, he kind of was like, well, you know, it's like this. It's like, no, no, no. Why do people have tattoos
Yeah.
today?
Yeah.
It's like, okay, Burns seems to understand something about, and I think it really hit home for me when I watched your conceptual humanity lecture, which frightened me, of course, but I
Mhm.
thought, okay, someone gets it. Someone
Right.
is actually trying to understand what's happening and not just saying, oh, it's just a phase, it's just a style. That's usually what you hear, you know, is
Well,
just
it's a phase that's been going on since the 90s.
right,
Just
exactly.
just as drugs is a phase that's been going on since the 60s.
Right.
And the sexual revolution is a phase that's been going on since the early 60s.
Right,
And
exactly.
it's just like, and anger is a phase that's been going on since the punk scene.
Exactly.
And these are new additions.
Yes.
And what happens is they tend to not, once they're added, it's just like, our smartphone's going to go away? Not unless there's something more invasive.
Great. Yeah.
Something even more addictive, there's a part of me, fortunately it's not a dominant part, but that kind of says, okay, let everything crumble, because then we'll get
I
back
feel
to
that
something
too.
real for a while.
Yeah.
But then again, I realize, okay, well, yeah, okay, millions of people are going to die. That's not
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
But it's you wonder one of the things I've been thinking about most lately is why people do what they do in terms of group consciousness. So, for instance, I've really been looking at the Swifties. You probably read my two
Yes.
Taylor Swift things, and I've really been thinking about that. But I keep watching it, and I keep saying, "What's going on here?" And I see two different aspects, and one is a very religious aspect, but the other is, for many of these people, going to a Taylor Swift concert is the only time they're in the real, actual presence of other people that they feel they connect with. You see, so that's an important thing to them. The problem is what they connect over, and there are good parts of Taylor Swift, and then there are parts that I find highly problematic.
Right.
So, but I'm not one of these people who's like one side or the other. To me, everything is complicated.
Yes.
There were even reasons for what happened in Germany that had to do with alienation, and they were trying to answer the questions of that alienation, and they got the wrong answer. And that's the problem. You get the wrong answer and you're in trouble. So having humility about, it's just one of the things I've often thought is, and I've been very aware of it ever since I was in my Christian Jesus people days turned kind of cultish. I've been very careful ever since then. Once I realized what had happened, and that happened while I was at L'Abri in Switzerland. Once I realized that, okay, we've got a serious problem where we don't have the big league cults we used to have. Now we have, and I think one of the reasons for that is that, the actual scary cults like Jonestown or, the Manson family or, even the Moonies and stuff.
Right.
Unification Church. Those don't have the same effect they used to. But what does have a big effect is the popular culture, geek culture.
Yeah.
And so the same principles are at work, which was the underlying point of my 21st century cargo cults.
Right.
But I feel a sneeze hovering around me. So I'm going to take a music break here. Just a reminder, I am trying to get this last $400 for, we're at $12,258. I'd like to get that over $12,400 before the end today, because I am really trying to get, that's getting the money that GoFundMe and PayPal took out of the 12,000, because frankly, for my travels, I'll need every dime of that 12,000. So PayPal, GoFundMe below, please contribute. It would be helpful. This will be the last time that I can do it, actually, because StreamYard's going to cut me off of their free time. But I will be back after the 24th to do a food run. Try to get some money for some food for the trip, because I realized I forgot to think about that. So, but let's listen to a song. What are we going to do here? Okay, I'll throw it into your chord again. I've got a 200 years automata organ, 200-year-old automata organ. I've got a Hawaiian song from 1930s. I've got a sacred harp song with the music and the words. And I've got a kind of what I would consider one of the very first truly postmodern songs by They Might Be Giants, called Don't Let's Start. Although I suspect I might get...
that one might
get me knocked off.
Let's
so
go,
save that for the end.
Sacred Harp. I love the Sacred Harp.
Okay, this is a great piece. This is called, the actual tune name is Billings. It's number 268 in the big book, which I finally got a copy of. And the actual name of it is David's Lamentation. And the nice thing is you can follow along with the music, and it starts off with the sol la ti do stuff. And then it goes with the lyrics. And one of the things I think about is, like, one of the reasons I think Christianity has been in a problem is we've been trying to dumb down our song lyrics for quite a while, to make them all about feeling. It's just like, yes, I really believe, I want to believe, help me believe. Whereas when you listen to the words of this David's Lamentation, you're just going like, oh my goodness, this is just deep bedrock human life. So let's listen to David's Lamentation, Sacred Harp version. probably a little too much reality for us.
Yeah, way too much.
Yeah,
Wow,
we
I
don't
love.
sing songs about death, and we don't sing songs. This is also, among other things, songs about the tensions between the father and the son.
Mm,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, that's what I love about a lot of these old songs. There's a song from a certain period, and to me, it starts probably at the beginning of the Reformation on until about the 1870s is when it really kind of goes downhill, and you get to the Romantic era of Christian music,
yeah,
and it's this deep level of the words are crafted in such a way as to reflect reality,
yes,
the reality of faith, which includes doubt, includes darkness, includes death, includes anger and pain and joy. It's
yeah,
real.
yes, absolutely. That Sacred Heart moves me so very much, and I really wish it were still used actively in churches, more churches today. I mean,
Well, it's there,
it is
and
there.
it hasn't fully died. It's actually made a bit of a comeback. The question is how to get it into one's local congregation, how to
Exactly.
have a congregation who can sing that unironically,
Hmm.
and
I know
that's
I could, but
yeah,
can
yeah,
other people?
yeah.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
this is part of where we are, is that
mhm,
there are things we need to do. And this is what I was also saying about crowd behavior. It's like, I often think, why do people keep going with the changing times? Why don't they realize that they should be like the house built on the rock?
yes,
That you stand, it's like, no, my faith doesn't need to address every new cosmic change that comes along. Because I'm convinced God is there. So yeah, I can look into evolution and stuff and weigh and
mhm,
measure stuff, but ultimately my faith isn't based on what I think about evolution, you
right,
know, nor is it based on what I think about psychedelics or what I think about psychological therapy or what I think about, becoming myself,
yeah,
uh, a concept very foreign to the Bible.
whatever that means, right?
Yeah, yeah. What does that mean?
Yeah,
So, uh, I mean, that's another reason why I like living here.
yeah,
There are fewer people who take that approach here. I mean, there
mhm,
are some people who've gotten a bit of the bug from Western society. And like I said, I was talking to this girl who she's about 27 years old. She runs a bookstore. She doesn't own it, but she orders the books and such. Her English is very good. But we were talking about, I was saying what you don't understand about America is you're on this side wanting these freedoms. And I said, we're on the other side of a mountain. And what
yeah,
happened is people went up the mountain and then just drove off. There's a cliff over there where
yeah,
we're all right now just kind of hanging on. And you can't see it from this side. And
yeah,
Georgia is certainly not the only country like this. There are so many countries around the world. They want these things they think are there, where every individual will be able to choose. We will resolve all the problems between men and women. We will, everyone will be who they really want to be. And then as you get there, and I said, for instance, I said, so if I tell you that there's a big problem with, what does a woman mean? Uh, and she goes, well, if a man wants to wear a dress, that's okay. I says, no, that's not the issue. Let me
no,
give you the issue. I said, the issue is this. Uh, can a biological man become a biological woman? Or are they the same thing if a man declares himself to be without going through any process? It's just the act of declaration that I am a woman. She goes, that's crazy. And I
mhm,
said, you see, what I've found here is the most leftish person I've ever found in Georgia would be a right winger in America.
just nuts, but it's true. We just
Yeah, yeah.
completely
All the
left.
people who want all that stuff, maybe in the 1990s they would have seemed like ooh, they're challenging the status quo, but now, no.
No, now it is the status quo in a way.
Right.
So, which is sad and scary, but hopefully just completely unravels and folds in on itself. Who knows?
Right.
But
Right. Okay, folks. So I've got like about 10 minutes here before I'm off. I'm enjoying my conversation with Michael.
Yeah.
We've got a few people watching now. Anyone feel like giving before we get out of here?
Yeah.
We're
Donate.
trying to give 12,000. We've got over $12,000. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much. I am touched by just what would I be doing right now if I would just be, I don't know, my stuff. They would just be buried in Alaska, and I'd be throwing another about $1,200 into it every year. I've already done it for 7 years, and
Mhm.
it's like it's time it gets here because I just can't keep doing that. It's like I
Yeah.
don't need to pay rent on something there. But so I'm grateful,
Yeah.
but I felt I could get this or raise this money to do this because I think that the people who, what, I don't have a big channel, but I've got a core of people, and it looks, there's probably about 100 or so or more people who've given during this, and I would say that's the core.
Yeah.
There's 100, I would say 150 people one way or another, because there's also people who gave the earlier time. So let's put it up to 150 or more people who are part of the core of this channel. And they say, like many times those people who have those big channels, they can all of a sudden lose all these people. What happens when you get the channel too big? You start losing the connection.
Yes.
I mean, Paul's even going through that now, where he's
A little
he's
bit. Yeah.
trying he's trying to hang on to it, and so he's created this paywall just so he can deal with people who kind of get lost in the larger shuffle.
Yeah.
And it's just success has its own problems.
Yeah.
One of them is you get abstracted.
Yes.
So
I'm reminded of everything Alul says on the massification of society and culture, and
hmm
that's
hmm
basically the phenomenon that pervades all these things. So
yeah. Well, I'm thinking to myself, if I can start getting my books selling on a somewhat regular basis, even through Amazon,
yeah.
and talk about them now and then, say, oh, I've got a book here. Because I've also I can easily go ahead and put out a book of my, I think 2 books of anadromous life material and 2 books of gravity from above material of the essays. And
hmm
I'd like to do that. So
Yeah.
those are freebies in a sense. They're already there. I
Yeah.
mean, and
Hey.
then I've
Yeah.
got a 400-page rough draft for another novel. I've got a novel that I wrote in the 1980s that I'll never publish. So I'm
Mm.
waiting until I die for that one. Well,
Oh, really?
I'm not
Huh.
until I die.
That's interesting.
Yeah. But if my work is any good, it's just like if people read it and go like, okay, he's interesting, but let's forget about it. I'm fine.
hmm
What I feel good about is that I'm communicating with people now, and like someone like you're younger.
hmm
Something has gotten through, and
Yeah.
as a result,
Absolutely.
you will take it into the future. And as Rookmacher says, if you listen to his
Oh
lectures,
yeah.
he said,
Oh yeah.
I'm not the person who's coming, but maybe in the future someone will look back and say he was someone who had something to say. And that's exactly why I pointed to him.
Yeah.
Because I said, no one's ever heard this guy outside of a few Labrie people,
Yeah.
and they need to.
Just
And a
shocking.
lot of the people who did take him seriously during his lifetime are older than me.
Mm.
So, let's get some of these ideas out there. And I've got a lot more. That's what's buried in Alaska.
Yeah. No, I'm really looking forward to seeing what you're going to be able to do once you have all that material, and I'm very eager to see some of that, especially those lectures
Yeah,
on.
yeah. Well, one thing I will do is, unfortunately, the next thing I have to do once I get everything here is to build my shelves. So here,
Mm.
these are, you can't really see them in this light, but
Yeah.
back there are shelves that I've built since I've been here, and I want to build more. Unfortunately, they cost money too.
Yes. And you've
And
mentioned wood is expensive there.
yeah, well, there is one thing I noticed is I saved an awful lot of the wood that I had my vinyl records on. That's
Mm.
underneath. It's between the pallets and the boxes. And so they're all about, I don't know, 2.5 feet long, and they're nice size for a vinyl record. And I go, great, I know exactly what I'm going to do with this. I'm going to use those. I didn't do the cross pieces, but I've got all the these short shelving blocks. I'm going, that's good. That's good. You know, the more the merrier. I'll stain those and turn them into these. So
there you go.
But yeah, well, this also gives me a sense of renewed hope. I think I've been kind of slowing down on some of this stuff over the last year or so. And I think the reason is because, there's not that I'm losing hope, but sometimes it just is hard to continue to believe, that not in God, but that I'm going to get this stuff here.
Yeah.
And, but now I have, okay, we're going there. I've got the tickets. I know I'm going to Alaska, and I've got enough money now, I think, to bring everything back alive. So, okay, well, Michael, I am going to cut you off here.
Actually,
thank you so much.
I have just, how they in news anchor rooms they hand you that bulletin, and
should I check something?
Yeah, you should check GoFundMe because I just
speaking of, okay, we got 20 more for Joseph Alford. That's nice. So let me write that up there. So it gets us up to $12,278. We're almost at that $12,400 mark, which would be a nice thing to hit by the end of today. But like I said, I'm going to come back one more time for the food money before I go. And that should wrap it up. But thanks, Joseph. I really appreciate that. And okay, I think that's it.
Was there anything from my mom? She said tell me to check.
Let me refresh it one more time.
Maybe it's just tardy.
Sometimes, did she use that system?
She used GoFundMe, I think.
Right. Sometimes it takes a moment because it doesn't refresh itself. Okay, hello? Not yet.
Yeah.
No, the other day I quit on this and I was playing something at the end, and suddenly I realized I had 4 people had left stuff there, including Paul Vanderclay. Also, in all of this, I figured out the real name of Grim Grizz, but I'm not going to spill
it. Unmasked.
Yeah.
Not really.
But maybe I should hold him hostage.
Make him
squirm. I'll tell everyone, unless you give me more money. How much? How much is it worth to you?
If you're not seeing anything, I don't know.
Well, like I said, it takes a few moments to go through. So
I don't know. You could play a song and see what happens then. I don't know.
Okay, let me play. This is a Hawaiian song from the 1930s. I used to live in Hawaii, so I have this kind of weakness for certain kinds of Hawaiian music, especially this. This is just a picture of a record. And the song is basically called Maui, and then there's some other words to it, but Maui being the island. And this is King Nawahi or something. I can't read it all, but you'll just see the record sleeve. But it's a great little tune. This is the vocal version. My favorite version is the instrumental guitar version.
Hano hano launa ole o Maui lai kalai ha'aheo na kualono o Maui no laka oi hao elua elike ai mahie hie launa ole Vale, aleakala, o Maui no laka oi, hao elua, elike ai, mahi e hie launa ole.
Okay, well, I'm going to get out of here before we turn over to 2 hours. And thank you so much, Nancy. Okay, I'm gone. Drobit. Okay, stop here.